My name is Lydia, and I am 36 years old. I've always believed in the quiet power of consistency, in the small, steady steps that build a life. For years, I was the reliable sister, the one who worked a stable job as a librarian, paid her bills on time, and looked after our aging mother. My younger brother, Finnian, was the opposite. A charming, restless dreamer who chased grand schemes that always seemed to dissolve into debt and disappointment. The day I bought that $5 lottery ticket, it was just a whim, a tiny deviation from my predictable routine. I never imagined it would be the one that hit the jackpot, and I certainly never imagined that my own brother, the one I had bailed out of trouble countless times, would steal that $1 million future from me. He thought I would just quietly accept my fate, as I always had. He didn't expect me to show up at his award ceremony, ready to reclaim not just my ticket, but my entire life. If you're watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know what you would do with $1 million. Before I tell you how I turned my brother's ultimate betrayal into my greatest victory, hit like and subscribe for more real-life stories about family secrets and the true price of greed. Before the ticket, my life was a well-ordered novel with predictable chapters. I lived in a modest but comfortable apartment just a few blocks from the public library where I worked. My world was one of Dewey Decimal classifications, the scent of old paper and the quiet satisfaction of helping a child discover a book that would ignite their imagination. I didn't make a lot of money, but I was a meticulous budgeter, a skill honed by years of financial necessity. I had a small emergency fund, a slowly growing retirement account, and zero debt. I found joy in the small things: a perfectly brewed cup of tea, a walk through the city park in autumn, and my weekly phone calls with my best friend Beatrice, who lived 3 states away but knew me better than anyone. Our family was a study in contrasts. My father had passed away 5 years ago, leaving my mother, Catherine, in a house that was too big for her and with a pension that was too small. At 68, she was a proud woman who struggled with a litany of minor health issues, and I made it my responsibility to help her, managing her bills, driving her to doctor's appointments, and ensuring her pantry was always stocked. Then there was Finnian. At 32, he was a whirlwind of untapped potential and spectacular failures. He was handsome, charismatic, and possessed an unshakable belief that his big break was just around the corner. He'd tried everything: day trading, a line of ethically sourced coffee that never sourced any coffee, an app for rating sunsets. Each venture was launched with a flurry of excitement and funded by a combination of my mother's dwindling savings and my own reluctant loans. The pattern was always the same: a desperate phone call, a promise that this time it was a sure thing, followed by a quiet admission of failure a few months later, and a promise to pay me back that I knew would never be kept. My mother enabled him completely. Where I saw recklessness, she saw ambition. Where I saw a lack of follow-through, she saw a creative spirit that couldn't be tie-bound. "He just needs one good opportunity, Lydia," she would say, her voice filled with a defensive hope. "You're so practical. You don't understand what it's like to have big dreams." But I did have dreams. They were just quieter. I dreamed of one day owning a small house with a garden, of traveling to see the great libraries of the world, of having enough financial security to not feel a knot of anxiety in my stomach every time my car made a strange noise. But in my family, Finnian's loud, flashy dreams always drowned out my quiet ones. My role was to be the safety net, the one who would catch him when he inevitably fell. Well, no one seemed to notice I was walking my own tightrope.
The day I bought the ticket was a Tuesday, a day of relentless, drizzling rain that matched my mood. I had just spent my lunch hour on the phone with my mother, who had tearfully informed me that Finnian needed another $5,000. His latest venture, a high-end dog walking service called Positive Experiences, had experienced some initial cash flow issues. In reality, he'd spent the startup money I'd loaned him 3 months ago on a fancy website and branded uniforms before he'd secured a single client. "He'll lose his apartment if he can't make rent, Lydia," my mother pleaded. "Mom, I can't. I just paid for your new hearing aids. I don't have it." "You always say that, but you always find a way. You're the responsible one." The familiar weight of that label settled on me. The responsible one. It was a compliment that felt like a cage. After the call, I felt drained and defeated. On my way back to the library, I stopped at a small corner store to buy a bottle of water. The lottery jackpot was displayed on a small screen behind the counter. $1 million. On a whim, fueled by a desperate need for a little bit of hope, I bought a single quick pick ticket. I tucked it into the side pocket of my wallet, next to my library card, and promptly forgot about it. That Friday evening, while paying for groceries, the ticket fell out of my wallet onto the counter. The cashier, a friendly woman named Gloria, smiled. "You should check that. The drawing was last night. We sold a big winner here, you know." My heart gave a little flutter of foolish hope. I let her scan the ticket. The machine made a series of chirping noises I had never heard before. Gloria's eyes widened. "Oh my God, you won! You won the $1 million!" The world seemed to slow down. The sounds of the grocery store, the beeping scanners, the rattling carts, faded into a dull roar. I stared at the slip of paper in my hand. $1 million. After taxes, it would be around $600,000. It was enough to change everything. It was a house with a garden. It was the libraries of the world. It was a future free from the constant gnawing anxiety about money. I managed to pay for my groceries and walk out of the store in a daze. My first instinct was to call my mother and Finnian to shout the incredible news. But a cold, practical voice, the voice of the responsible one, stopped me. I thought of Finnian's $5,000 cash flow issue. I thought of my mother's unquestioning support for his every scheme. I knew, with a certainty that was both sad and absolute, what would happen to that money if they knew about it. It would be chipped away, loan by loan, investment by investment, until my quiet dreams were once again sacrificed for Finnian's loud ones. So I made a decision. I would tell no one. I would claim the money quietly, set up a plan with a financial advisor, and then, once everything was secure, I would decide how to proceed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I took the ticket out of my wallet and stared at it. The number's a magical incantation that spelled freedom. I took a high-resolution photo of the front and back with my phone, and then, for good measure, I wrote down the serial number and the date of purchase on a piece of paper that I hid in my jewelry box. The ticket itself I placed back in the same side pocket of my wallet. It was the last place anyone would think to look for $1 million prize. I felt a sense of calm. My secret was safe. The next day, a Saturday, I went to my mother's house to help her with some gardening, a weekly ritual. Finnian was there, sprawled on the couch, looking despondent. The $1 million secret felt like a tangible thing in my pocket, a warm, heavy stone. "Lydia, thank God you're here," my mother said, pulling me into the kitchen.
Talk to your brother. He's so upset. The landlord for the Positive Experiences office space is threatening to sue him. I walked into the living room and sat down in the armchair opposite him. "Mom says you're having some trouble?" Finnian sighed dramatically, running a hand through his hair. "It's a nightmare, Lyd. I'm ruined. I put everything into this. If I could just get that $5,000, I could turn it all around. I'm so close." The familiar speech, the familiar desperation. For the first time, I felt a surge of anger instead of pity. He was so consumed by his own self-made crisis, he didn't even ask how I was. I told Mom, Finnian, "I don't have it. I'm sorry." He looked at me, his charming smile twisting into something ugly. "You always have it. You just don't want me to succeed. You've always been jealous of me." "That's not true." "Isn't it? You're happy in your little, safe life, and you can't stand that I'm trying to build something bigger." He stood up and started pacing. My mother hovered in the doorway, her face a mask of distress. "Finnian, please."
No, Mom, she needs to hear this. She could help if she wanted to. She's just selfish. The accusation, so wildly untrue after years of my own sacrifices, was the final straw. I stood up, my purse slung over my shoulder. I'm not selfish, Finnian. I'm done. I'm done being the family bank. I'm done funding your failures. You're a grown man. It's time you learn to solve your own problems. I walked out of the house, ignoring my mother's tearful pleas to come back. The argument left me shaken. That night, unable to settle, I decided to go for a late-night coffee at a 24-hour diner. I left my main purse at home, taking only my small wallet with my ID, a credit card, and the lottery ticket. While walking the 3 blocks to the diner, a man on a bicycle snatched my wallet from my hand and sped off into the darkness. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, my heart pounding. It happened so fast. I screamed, but he was already gone. I called the police, filed a report, but I knew it was hopeless. My wallet was gone, and with it, the lottery ticket. The $1 million, my entire future had vanished into the night. A wave of despair so profound it made me nauseous washed over me. I had held freedom in my hand for less than 48 hours, and now it was gone. The irony was crushing. In the end, it seemed I was destined for my quiet, predictable, financially anxious life after all. The next morning, I was a ghost moving through my apartment in a fog of grief. I had to cancel my credit cards, order a new driver's license. Every small administrative task was a fresh reminder of my loss. I told my mother that my wallet had been stolen, and her first question was, "Did you have any cash in it?" I almost laughed. I never had cash. Then, 3 days later, the news story broke. Local man claims $1 million lottery prize, the headline read. I clicked on the link. My heart in my throat. The picture showed a beaming man holding a giant check. It wasn't the thief. It was my brother, Finnian. I stared at the screen, at the triumphant smile on my brother's face, and the world dissolved into a roaring in my ears. The article quoted him extensively. He was an entrepreneur between ventures who had bought the ticket on a whim. He planned to use the money to finally launch his dream business and take care of his wonderful and supportive mother. There was no mention of a sister. He stood there, wrapped in my stolen future, and he had erased me from the narrative completely. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The argument at my mother's house, my sudden decision to go for a coffee, the random theft. It was all a lie. Finnian hadn't found the ticket. He had orchestrated its theft. The argument was the pretext, the thing designed to upset me, to make me act impulsively. He must have followed me or hired someone to. He knew I had the ticket. But how? The grocery store. Gloria, the friendly cashier, Finnian knew I shopped there every Friday. Had he gone there, asking questions? My sister thinks she won. Did you see her? It would have been so easy for him with his charming, disarming smile. The betrayal was so absolute, so diabolical, it was hard to comprehend. This wasn't a crime of opportunity, it was a premeditated act of war against his own sister. My grief turned into a cold, hard rage. He had not just stolen my money, he had stolen my dreams, and he had used my love and trust against me to do it. My first call was to Beatrice. I laid out the whole story, my voice shaking with fury. "You have to fight this, Lydia," she said, her voice a soothing balm on my frayed nerves. "You have the picture of the ticket, right? And the serial number?" "Yes, but he has the ticket itself. It's my word against his. And who is everyone going to believe? The responsible, quiet librarian or the charming, charismatic entrepreneur? We'll make them believe you," she said with a conviction that gave me a sliver of hope. My second call was to the Lottery Commission's Security Division. I spoke to an investigator named Mr. Davies. I explained the situation, my voice low and steady as I laid out the facts. The date and time of purchase, the photo of the ticket, the serial number, the suspicious timing of the theft, and my brother's sudden claim. "It's an interesting story, Miss Vance," he said, his tone professional and non-committal, "but without the physical ticket, your claim is very difficult to prove. Your brother has presented the winning ticket, and it has been verified, but I have the photo and the serial number. Anyone could have taken a picture of the ticket after your brother won. He could claim you're an estranged, jealous sibling trying to defraud him. It happens." He was right. I was the crazy sister, the bitter librarian trying to steal her brother's moment of glory. It was a perfect crime, and Finnian had constructed it brilliantly. "We will open an investigation, of course," Mr. Davies continued. "The award ceremony is in 2 weeks. The funds will not be released until after that. If you can provide any concrete proof of your claim before then, we will look at it, but I have to be honest, it's a long shot." I hung up the phone feeling defeated. My proof was circumstantial. Finnian had the one thing that mattered, the ticket itself. My family, of course, was ecstatic. My mother called me, her voice bubbling with a joy that was like poison in my ear. "Lydia, can you believe it? Finnian's luck has finally turned. He's going to be a millionaire. He's already talking about buying me a condo in Florida. Isn't he a wonderful son?" "Mom," I started, the words catching in my throat. "It's my ticket. He stole it from me." The line went silent. When my mother spoke again, her voice was cold and sharp. "That is a vile, hateful thing to say, Lydia. Your brother has finally found success, and your jealousy is so ugly you have to invent this fantasy. I am deeply disappointed in you." She hung up. That was it. I had been tried and convicted in the court of my own family. My truth was an inconvenience to their newfound happiness, so it was discarded. For the next week, I was a ghost in my own life. I went to work, I ate, I slept, but the rage and the sense of injustice were a constant fire in my gut. Finnian was now a local celebrity. He was on the news, in the papers, the charming young entrepreneur whose dreams had finally come true. He announced the official launch of Positive Experiences, which had miraculously been rebranded as a luxury pet resort he was planning to build. He did interviews from my mother's living room, which had been redecorated with new furniture he'd bought on credit, confident in his future wealth. He was performing the role of his lifetime, and he was loving every minute of it. Meanwhile, I was gathering my weapons. The legal battle would be impossible. A he said, she said fight I was destined to lose. So I decided to fight on a different battlefield, the truth. Beatrice, a paralegal with a mind for details, became my strategist. "He built a perfect story," she said during one of our late-night calls. "We need to find the cracks in it." The first crack was Gloria, the grocery store cashier. I went back to the store, my heart pounding. I found her stocking shelves in the cereal aisle. "I know this is a strange question, Gloria," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "But do you remember me? I was in here last Friday and you scanned my lottery ticket?" She looked at me, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Yeah, I remember. The librarian. You won the big one. I saw in the paper your brother claimed it, though. I thought that was kind of funny." "Gloria, this is very important. Did you happen to talk to my brother at all?" Her eyes widened slightly. "You know, I did. He came in the next morning, Saturday. A real charmer. Said his sister was always misplacing things, and he was worried she'd lost a winning ticket. He described you, even knew you were a librarian. He asked if I'd seen you, or the ticket." "What did you tell him?" "I just told him a woman who looked like him had won, but I couldn't give out any personal information. He was very persistent. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was something. It proved he knew about the ticket before he claimed to have found it. I asked Gloria if she would be willing to sign a statement to that effect. She agreed without hesitation. "Something about that boy didn't sit right with me," she said. "Too smooth." The second crack was the theft itself. Finnian was charming, but he wasn't a master criminal. He would have hired someone, and he would have been clumsy about it. I went to the police station and spoke to the detective handling my case, a tired-looking man named O'Malley. I told him my suspicions. He was skeptical, but he agreed to pull the security camera footage from the street where I was robbed. "It's a long shot," he warned me. "The guy was on a bike, probably wearing a hoodie." But the footage, grainy and dark as it was, revealed one crucial detail. The thief, after snatching my wallet, had ridden 2 blocks and turned down a side street. He had stopped next to a parked car, a car whose make and model were just visible. It was a silver sedan with a distinctive dent in the rear bumper. It was the same car Finnian had been driving for the past year, a car I had helped him buy. The final piece of the puzzle came from Finnian himself. In his newspaper interview, basking in the glow of his newfound fame, he had made a critical mistake. He said, "I've been buying tickets at that store for years. I always felt it was a lucky spot." But Finnian never bought lottery tickets. He always called it a tax on the stupid. He had mocked me for years for my occasional $5 purchase. It was a small lie, but it was a lie I could prove. I had years of text messages between us where he had made fun of me for playing the lottery. I now had 3 things: Gloria's statement proving he knew about the ticket, the video footage linking him to the theft, and his own public lie that I could easily disprove. It was all circumstantial. Maybe not enough to win in a court of law, but it was more than enough to destroy him in the court of public opinion. The award ceremony was in 3 days. Finnian had invited the local news, the mayor, and everyone he knew to witness his coronation. He had even, in a moment of supreme arrogance, sent me an invitation with a smirking, handwritten note. "No hard feelings, sis. Come and celebrate with me." Oh, I would be there, but I wasn't coming to celebrate. I was coming to collect.
The day of the ceremony, I felt a strange, cold calm. I had spent the last 48 hours with Beatrice, meticulously planning every detail. She had flown in, a whirlwind of supportive energy and legal savvy. We had prepared a packet of information for the press: Gloria's signed statement, a still from the security footage showing the thief next to Finnian's car, and screenshots of years of text messages where he mocked the lottery. We had also included a copy of the high-resolution photo of me holding the winning ticket, dated and time-stamped from the night before the theft. I chose my outfit with care, a simple, elegant dark blue dress. I wanted to look like what I was, a quiet, professional woman who had been grievously wronged, not a hysterical, jealous sister. I did my hair, applied my makeup, and for the first time in 2 weeks, I looked in the mirror and saw a flicker of the person I used to be. But she was different now. She was stronger. The ceremony was being held in the grand atrium of City Hall. It was packed. The room buzzed with excitement. I saw my mother in the front row, wearing a new dress, her face glowing with pride. Finnian stood on the stage, next to a representative from the Lottery Commission, looking like a king awaiting his crown. He was charming, he was handsome, and he was a thief. I slipped into a seat in the back row, unnoticed. Beatrice sat beside me, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. The lottery representative began his speech, talking about dreams and luck. Then he invited Finnian to the podium. My brother soaked in the applause, his smile a dazzling lie. He began his speech, thanking the city, thanking the lottery, thanking our mother for her unwavering belief in him. "My whole life, I've been a dreamer," he said, his voice thick with fake emotion. "And there were a lot of times when people told me to give up, to be more practical. But I always knew that one day my ship would come in, and this is more than a ship, this is a whole fleet." The crowd laughed and applauded. It was nauseating. He was about to receive the giant ceremonial check when I stood up. "I have a question." My voice, clear and steady, cut through the room.
every head turned to look at me. I saw the flash of recognition, then pure panic in Finnian's eyes. My mother's smile froze on her face. "Who are you?" the lottery representative asked, looking confused. "My name is Lydia Vance," I said, walking slowly towards the stage. "I'm his sister, the one he failed to mention, and I'm the real winner of that lottery ticket." A collective gasp went through the room. The news cameras, which had been focused on Finnian, all swiveled towards me. That's not true," Finnian stammered, his charming composure finally cracking. She's unwell. She's always been jealous of me." "Am I?" I asked, reaching the foot of the stage. "Then perhaps you can explain this." Beatrice, on cue, stood up and began handing our prepared press packets to the reporters in the room. "In that packet, you will find a signed statement from the cashier who sold the winning ticket, confirming she sold it to me. You will also find evidence that my brother was asking about my winning ticket the morning before he magically found it." I saw Finnian's face drain of color. He looked at my mother, a desperate, pleading look, but she was staring at me, her face a mask of horror and dawning comprehension. "And perhaps, Finnian, you can tell us all why you told the press you've been buying lottery tickets for years, when for the last 5 years you've been sending me text messages like this one." I held up my phone, displaying a message from him from 6 months ago. "Lyd, only suckers play the lottery. Just give me the money directly, LOL." The reporters were now frantically flipping through the packets, their expressions shifting from confusion to rapt attention. The lottery representative looked at Mr. Davies, the investigator, who was standing at the side of the stage. Davies gave a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. "But most importantly," I continued, my voice ringing with newfound power, "you will find a time-stamp photo of me at my home holding the winning ticket on the night of the drawing. And you will find a still from a police security camera showing the man who stole my wallet getting into a car that just happens to be registered to my brother." The room erupted into chaos. The cameras were now all focused on Finnian, who looked like a trapped animal. My mother had buried her face in her hands. "This is a family matter," Finnian shouted, his voice high and strained. "This is a private dispute. You made it public when you gave interviews and plastered your face all over the news, Finnian. You made it public when you stole my future." I turned to the lottery representative. "The ticket my brother is holding has my signature on the back, written in the invisible ink of my trust and his betrayal, but it also has my fingerprints, and I am formally contesting this prize." Mr. Davies stepped forward, his face grim. "Mr. Vance, given this new information, we will be postponing the release of any funds pending a full investigation. We'll need you to come with us to answer a few questions." The ceremony was over. As 2 security guards escorted a pale, trembling Finnian off the stage, I finally looked at my mother. She was staring at me, her eyes filled not with anger, but with a terrible, hollow understanding. She finally saw the truth. The dream she had bought into was a lie, and the son she had adored was a common thief. I felt no triumph, only a vast, empty sadness. I had won. I had reclaimed my name and my future, but I had lost my family, the one I was born into, forever. The aftermath was a media firestorm. The story of the duplicitous brother and the quiet, wronged sister was far more compelling than a simple lottery win. For a week, my face and Finnian's were on every local news channel. The investigation moved swiftly. Faced with a mountain of evidence, Gloria's testimony, the security footage, the text messages, and a handwriting analysis of the signature on the back of the ticket, Finnian confessed. He had in fact hired a down-on-his-luck acquaintance to snatch my wallet, promising him a small cut of the winnings. He admitted to the entire scheme.
He avoided a long prison sentence by taking a plea deal, but he was convicted of felony theft and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation, mandatory restitution for the items in my wallet, and 500 hours of community service. The lottery money, after a 3-month delay, was officially and legally awarded to me. My mother called me once, a week after the ceremony. Her voice was a fragile whisper. I didn't know, Lydia. I swear I didn't know. You didn't want to know, Mom, I said, my voice gentle but firm. You saw what you wanted to see. He was always my little boy, my dreamer. He's a 32-year-old man who stole from his own sister. There's nothing dreamy about that. We didn't speak again after that. I heard from a cousin that she sold the house and moved into a small senior apartment complex. She was using her meager pension to help Finnian with his legal fees. In the end, her loyalty, however misplaced, was absolute. She had chosen her son, and I had chosen myself. The day the check for $623,000 cleared in my bank account, I didn't feel the euphoric joy I had imagined. I just felt quiet. The money wasn't a prize anymore. It was a settlement. It was the price of my stolen trust, the compensation for a broken family.
I didn't quit my job at the library. I loved my work, the order and the peace of it. But I did reduce my hours to part-time. I used a portion of the money to buy a small, charming house on a tree-lined street, the kind of house I had always dreamed of. It had a porch swing and a small backyard where I planted a garden filled with herbs and roses. I created a trust for my mother's long-term care, ensuring she would never have to worry about medical bills or rent, but I had the funds managed by a third party. It was a final act of responsibility, not forgiveness, a way to honor the mother she once was, before Finnian's dreams consumed her. The rest of the money I invested wisely, with the help of a kind, sensible financial advisor. For the first time in my life, I felt a profound sense of security. It wasn't the money itself, but the freedom it represented. The freedom from fear. The freedom to make choices based on desire rather than necessity. One afternoon, about a year later, I was sitting on my new porch swing, reading a book. A package was delivered. It was a small, crudely wrapped box with no return address. Inside was a small, hand-carved wooden bird. I knew instantly it was from Finnian. Wood carving had been the one hobby he had ever stuck with as a child. There was a short, handwritten note. "I'm sorry, I'm trying to be a better man." I placed the small bird on my mantelpiece. It was not a sign of reconciliation, not yet, but it was perhaps the beginning of a different story, one that he would have to write on his own. My life is quiet again now, but it's a different kind of quiet. It's not the quiet of loneliness, but the quiet of peace. I have my house, my garden, my books, and the unwavering friendship of Beatrice. I travel, I explore. I am slowly learning what it means to dream my own dreams, not just finance the dreams of others. The lottery ticket didn't just give me money, it gave me a voice. It forced me to stand up and claim my own story. The price was my family, but the prize was myself. And it's a prize I will never, ever let anyone steal from me again. Have you ever had to make a choice between your family and your own well-being? What did you learn from the experience? Share your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe for more true stories about finding your own strength. Remember to share this video with anyone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose yourself. Thank you for listening, and may you always have the courage to claim your own winning ticket.